The waitress grabbed my arm as I left the restaurant. Her eyes were wild, terrified. She pressed the receipt into my palm and whispered, "I lied. His card didn't decline. Google him. Tonight." What I found when I searched his name made my blood run cold, and what happened when I invited his wife to our next coffee date. That's a story you need to hear. If you've ever wanted to see a manipulator face every single person they've hurt at once, you're in the right place. Hit that like button for public justice, and subscribe because karma isn't just real. Sometimes it needs a little help. Now, let me tell you exactly how we made it happen. My name is Ashley, and for 3 perfect weeks, I believed I'd finally cracked the code on modern dating. Eric wasn't just handsome. He was attentive in a way that felt rare, almost old-fashioned. He remembered small details from our conversations, asked thoughtful questions about my work, and never once made me feel like I was competing with his phone for attention. When he told me he worked in international finance, traveling frequently for high-stakes deals, it explained his sporadic availability without raising red flags. I'd been burned before by emotionally unavailable men, but Eric seemed different. Stable, genuine, safe. That Tuesday evening, he suggested dinner at Marcello's, an upscale Italian place downtown with soft lighting and prices that made me grateful he'd insisted on paying. We laughed over wine, and I found myself relaxing in a way I hadn't in months. The anxiety I usually carried on dates, that constant internal calculation of whether someone was worth my time, had completely dissolved. Then came the moment that would crack everything wide open. When our server, Emily, brought the check, Eric handed over his card with the easy confidence of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. I was mid-sentence, telling him about my sister's upcoming wedding, when Emily returned. Her expression had shifted. Flat, professional, carefully neutral. "Sir, your card was declined." The air pressure in the room seemed to change. Eric's face went pale, then flushed red. He stammered something about international transfers, bank security holds, the complications of moving money across borders. His hands fumbled for his phone, his wallet, patting pockets like he might find another solution hidden in his jacket lining. I felt a surge of sympathy watching him unravel. Money issues happen to everyone, right? I pulled out my own card, smiling reassuringly, trying to ease his obvious humiliation. "Don't worry about it. I've got this one." The $120 bill stung a little, more than I'd usually spend on myself, but his embarrassment felt so genuine that I convinced myself it was the kind thing to do. We left quickly, Eric still apologizing, promising to make it up to me. I was 3 steps from the door when Emily caught my arm. Her grip was firm, urgent, and her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach drop. She pressed the payment receipt into my hand and leaned close, her voice barely above a whisper but weighted with something I couldn't name yet. Fear, maybe, or protective fury. "I lied," she said. "His card didn't decline." My brain stuttered, trying to process. "What?" "Google him." She squeezed my hand once, then released me and walked back toward the kitchen, leaving me standing there with my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. That night, alone in my apartment, I sat cross-legged on my bed with my laptop, staring at the search bar. My hands were shaking as I typed his name. Eric Matthews. The first result was a mugshot. My Eric, charming, thoughtful Eric, staring dead-eyed into a police camera. The article beneath it detailed theft charges. Then another article, and another. A pattern emerging like a slow-motion car crash I couldn't look away from. Woman after woman, each one describing the same international finance story. The same attentive behavior. The same sudden financial emergencies. His real name wasn't even Eric. It was Jacob. I felt physically sick, my whole body cold and shaking. Emily hadn't just saved me from an awkward date or a stolen wallet. She'd saved me from something darker, more calculated. This wasn't a guy down on his luck. This was a predator with a system. I didn't sleep that night. By dawn, fueled by rage and disbelief, I opened Facebook and navigated to Real Talk Dating Life, a massive local group where thousands of women shared dating experiences, warnings, and advice. I'd lurked there for months but never posted. Until now. I uploaded his photo, the charming one from his profile, not the mugshot, and wrote a simple, carefully worded question. Went on a few dates with this guy who claims to work in international finance. His card declined tonight and he seemed really embarrassed about a transfer issue. Red flag, or am I overthinking? I hit the post and set my phone down, not expecting much. Maybe a few comments telling me to trust my gut. Maybe someone suggested I give him another chance. What happened instead was an avalanche. Within 20 minutes, my phone was vibrating nonstop, notifications flooding in so fast I couldn't read them. But these weren't advice comments. They were warnings. Warnings and confessions and testimonies that made my blood run cold. That's Jacob. He stole $300 from me. Same finance story. Same declined card. He's a con artist. Oh my God, I dated him last year. He said his name was Edward. He used me to pay for his kid's birthday party, then ghosted. The thread exploded into dozens, then 50, then 70 comments. Women I'd never met were tagging friends, sharing their own stories, posting screenshots of text conversations that mirrored mine almost word for word. The pattern was so precise it felt algorithmic, like he'd been following a script. Then came the message that changed everything. A woman named Margaret sent me a private DM with no introduction, just a link to a Facebook profile. I clicked it, my hands already trembling because some part of me knew what I was about to see. There he was, Jacob, my Eric, posing in a sunlit backyard with a beautiful woman and 2 young children. The caption read, 10 amazing years with my incredible wife Nancy. Here's to forever. The profile was public, active, recently. Photos from last weekend. The same weekend he'd told me he was in Singapore closing a deal. He wasn't just a con artist. He was a husband, a father, running a double life with the precision of someone who'd perfected the lie. The fear I'd felt earlier curdled into something else entirely. Cold, focused rage. I could have gone to the police, filed reports, handed over evidence, let the system grind slowly toward some unsatisfying plea deal, but that felt hollow, distant. This man had looked me in the eyes and lied with such ease, such practiced charm. He'd done it to dozens of women. He was doing it to his wife. No. This required something immediate, something public, something that would strip away every lie at once and force him to face every single person he'd hurt. I spent the next day building the plan. First, the bait. I texted Jacob. I couldn't bring myself to call him Eric anymore, with a breezy, completely clueless message. Hey, I know last night was awkward, but these things happen. Want to meet? For coffee tomorrow? There's this great place downtown, Café Lumière. My treat this time. His response came within minutes, dripping with relief and gratitude. He probably thought he'd gotten away with it. Again. Next, the team. I returned to the Real Talk Dating Life thread and sent private messages to women who'd posted about recent encounters with Jacob, women who lived locally and seemed ready for action. 3 responded immediately. Natalie, a nurse who'd lost $500 to his medical emergency scam. Margaret, the woman who'd found his real profile. And Ella, a teacher who'd almost co-signed a loan for him before her sister intervened. We created a group chat. The plan was simple but required perfect timing. We'd all show up at Café Lumière, enter separately, and surround him. No violence, no yelling, just presence. Just the undeniable, inescapable weight of his own actions. But the final piece, the nuclear option, was Nancy. I stared at her Facebook profile for an hour before I finally sent the message. I attached everything: screenshots of the dating thread, the mugshot articles, photos of his active dating profile using a fake name, testimonies from victim after victim. Then I wrote, "Your husband has been running a con operation targeting women for at least 2 years. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., he'll be at Café Lumière on 5th Street, expecting to meet me for a date. If you want the truth, the whole truth, be there." I hit send before I could second-guess myself, then immediately felt sick. Was I destroying a family? Hurting innocent kids? But then I remembered the 70-plus comments, the women he'd stolen from, the systematic cruelty of his lies. Nancy deserved to know, and Jacob deserved to face her. The next day, I positioned myself across the street from Café Lumière, partially hidden behind a parked delivery van, but with a clear view of the entrance. My heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Natalie, Margaret, and Ella were already inside, seated separately, nursing coffees and pretending to read. At 1:58 p.m., Jacob strolled up to the cafe entrance. He looked relaxed, confident, wearing a tailored jacket and that easy smile that had fooled me completely. He checked his reflection in the window, smoothed his hair, and walked inside. I watched through the glass as he scanned the room for me, his expression shifting to mild confusion when he didn't see me at any of the tables. Then, at exactly 2 p.m., Nancy arrived. I recognized her instantly from the photos. Same dark hair, same elegant posture, but in person. Her face was carved from stone, her eyes burning with cold purpose. She walked straight to the cafe door and pushed it open. From my vantage point, I saw the exact moment Jacob noticed her. His head turned, his body went rigid, and every drop of color drained from his face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. He started to speak, probably to lie, to scramble for some explanation. But before a single word could leave his lips, the door opened again. Natalie walked in. She didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge him, just entered and moved to stand 3 feet to his left. 10 seconds later, Margaret entered. She positioned herself to his right, then Ella, behind him. The 3 women formed a triangle around Jacob, silent and still, their presence alone creating an inescapable cage. He was trapped, surrounded by the ghosts of his own deceptions made flesh. Nancy walked directly up to him. She didn't raise her voice, didn't cry. She simply held up her phone, the screen showing the Facebook thread with its endless scroll of victims and warnings. "Hello, Jacob," she said, her voice low but carrying through the suddenly silent cafe. Other patrons had stopped talking, sensing something monumental unfolding. "You thought you were clever," Nancy continued. "You thought you could keep all of us separate, all of us ignorant. But these women," she gestured to Natalie, Margaret, and Ella, "and 47 others found each other. They found me, and now we're all here to tell you the same thing." She paused, holding his gaze as he stood frozen, speechless, his face a mask of shame and panic. "Your card," Nancy said, her words deliberate and precise, "has been permanently declined." The silence that followed was deafening. Jacob didn't argue, didn't try to defend himself. He just stood there, caught in the center of his own web, surrounded by the evidence of his betrayal. A few customers were filming now, phones raised, capturing the moment for posterity. Nancy turned and walked out without another word. Natalie, Margaret, and Ella followed her one by one, leaving Jacob standing alone in the middle of the cafe, utterly destroyed. I stayed hidden across the street, watching as he finally stumbled out 10 minutes later, his confident stride replaced by the hunched shuffle of someone carrying unbearable weight. Emily the waitress had given me 2 words that saved me from a dangerous man. But it was the community, 47 women who refused to stay silent, who chose solidarity over shame, that delivered real justice. Nancy filed for divorce within a week. Several victims, emboldened by our public confrontation, pressed formal charges. Jacob's real name and face circulated through every local dating group with warnings attached. But the most satisfying part wasn't his legal consequences or his ruined reputation. It was that moment in the cafe when he realized he couldn't charm his way out, couldn't lie or deflect or disappear. He had to stand there and face every single person he'd hurt, all at once. Sometimes karma needs a helping hand. And sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't violence or cruelty. It's simply forcing someone to see themselves through the eyes of everyone they've wronged. If this story reminded you why community and speaking up matters, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me what you would have done in Ashley's position, or if you've ever had a moment where a stranger's warning saved you from disaster. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just 4 women standing in a circle, refusing to let someone escape the truth. Thanks for listening, and remember, always Google them.